women who are working and balancing motherhood like you and just kind of doing it all. You really learn from each other when you're around, surrounded by good company.
So when you're in this environment, you're at Stanford. Your Stanford degree is going to be valuable no matter what.
Yeah.
What do you think? Let's have a chat. Sure, why not? And that sure, why not conversation literally changed the direction of my life.
How are those conversations happening? Are you talking to your, direct superior? Are you talking to HR? Like, how do you recognize that you want to move up? Working hard. Doesn't matter if people are noticing or not.
I delivered double-digit growth literally every quarter for
Amazing.
a number of years.
Today on Legacy Talks, I'm joined by one of the most influential women at the intersection of luxury, technology, and innovation. Morin Oluwole, former global head of luxury at Meta, a board advisor, entrepreneur, mother, and of course, a true global citizen, shaping her career over 5 countries. Working with the world's biggest luxury houses, how they embrace digital to redefining success in her own terms. She is truly a force. We're diving into the future of luxury, leadership, and reinvention. I can't wait to share her inspiring story with you. Thanks for watching Legacy Talks. Welcome to Legacy Talks. Morin, I am so happy you're here for so many reasons because one, when I called you, you said yes right away.
Of course.
2, you have the most incredible story, career story, which I think so many people are going to resonate with and learn from. So I can't wait to start, where you grew up to where you are now, which is in Dubai. And the other thing is that I started looking at just friends and just people around me. And I always say that good souls attract good souls. And, women who are working and balancing motherhood like you and just kind of doing it all. You really learn from each other when you're around, surrounded by good company. And so that's one of the reasons I wanted you here today, because Legacy Talks is really about women post-40 really finding their own way. And lessons that you learn along the way. And that's kind of what I want to share with our viewers in this episode.
Well, I have to say, I'm very, very pleased and of course honored that you invite me to join you and share these experiences, because we have a lot of shared experiences as well. And there's a lot that I admire in you and, how you've built your career, built your life, and are building your family. And so it's a pleasure to be here, first of all.
Thank you.
And I can't wait to discuss, all the topics that have excited us and also what we've learned along the way.
So let's start where you grew up, because what I found in kind of both of our stories is that I lived in 4 countries. You've lived in multiple countries as well.
Yes.
And so let's start with Nigeria,
Yes.
right? Africa.
Yes.
How did you end up from Africa to Europe to Middle East?
Well, I will make the story very short.
Yes.
So I've lived in 5 countries now, and I'm grateful to have had that experience thanks to my parents. First, like you said, my cultural experience is rooted in being Nigerian and being African, and that's something that's really kind of translated to the decisions that I've taken in my life over the years. So, to do a geographical mapping, I went from Nigeria to London, which we both love, to the U.S. between California and New York, Paris, where I just had an explosion in terms of my career, and now in Dubai. So it's been a full circle journey. It's taught me a lot in terms of tolerance, in terms of being open to challenging new experiences. And that's something that I hope to impart also when I look at my daughter and she's growing up now in this, true international experience. I will say career-wise, so like I said, I grew up in London, younger sister with my parents, and we're very core and family-oriented. Everything was really centered around culture and food and language and music. So the cultural part of me is rooted in being Nigerian, and that's really kind of resonates in my blood today. And then the other aspect that really was very concrete for me was in terms of building a career and education. My grandfather was on the Supreme Court of Nigeria, and he's someone that grew up in a village. He was born in 1923 and grew up in a village, and he worked his way up to go to law school at 30 years in London.
Amazing.
So when you have someone that is able to just be that example for you, you cannot not go the extra mile and also make your family proud as well. So that's really something
I actually
that,
love that, by the way. Because, when I talk about my story as well, like, it's these pivotal moments when you actually look back and it's almost like you take it for granted, like how you got to where you were.
Yeah.
And so even for me, like my parents were immigrants from East Africa and just had to leave with one suitcase and start their life all over again. And then you realize, like, sometimes I sit there and complain. I'm going, oh my God, my parents did it. Like they started in from a hot climate to a cold climate, one suitcase, and the resilience that they had. And like my parents never complain ever. They're just always looking forward. So I love that you have that value system instilled in you.
And it's a sense of pride. It's a sense of pride because we know what our grandparents, what our parents have done, and we want to make them proud, but then we also want to make our culture proud as well.
Of course.
Because, we work in different industry where diversity can be a challenge. And so in some ways, it's a burden, but I think it's also something to be proud of where you're a representative of, what excellence looks like across the cultural sphere, if you will. And so that's something that's really resonated with me.
So was education really important? Was it always?
It's very important.
Yeah.
It's kind of a funny joke. So Nigerian families, you're either a lawyer, a doctor, an engineer.
Oh, that's like being Indian. Don't worry. I'm like,
Exactly.
my parents gave up on me. They're like, what do you do? You're in the creative field? I'm like,
that's exactly the question my mom posed to me, excuse me. That's the question that my mom posed to me when I decided to shift from being a doctor, meaning I was at Stanford, I was taking all the courses, the chemistry, the physics, the biology, I was deep in it. And then I said, this is not for me. I remember I was working in an emergency room, night shift from 12 p.m. to 8 a.m. And I said, this is not where I want my life to be. And then once you realize that, then you have to make a plan. And you have to say, okay, what do I want my life to be? And where does it need to go? Thankfully, obviously, when you're in a top Ivy League school in the U.S., you're not lost in terms of what you're gonna build next.
But can I ask you, like, this is a conversation that I have with a lot of friends at a certain point, but how do you make that plan, right? Like, do you literally sit there and map it out, what your skills are, or is it what your passions are? Like, you're at Stanford.
I'm
like,
at Stanford.
you are like this close to having that DR dot, Morin there.
Yes.
And then you make this insane career change, right? How do you have the courage to do that? And what does that step look like?
Yeah, I think a couple of things. One, I make calculated risks, meaning I'm not going in blind, okay?
Yeah.
I did my research in terms of what are the different options for me. I want to make sure, because I was supported by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And so it was important that I fulfill the conditions of that scholarship as well. And so I did my research as to, okay, if I don't go on path A, what am I going to do? What does path B, C, or D looks like? So calculated risk, I think, is really the most important aspect, because then you really know what to expect and you know what are the potential downfalls before you leap into the quote-unquote unknown. That's the first thing. And for me, the second thing is when you're in this environment, you're at Stanford, your Stanford degree is going to be valuable no matter what.
Yeah.
So I had already done the work to showcase that I was, based on my merit and based on the intelligence that I could communicate, that I was worthy of being a Stanford graduate. So I knew that no matter what, I wasn't going to fail in that sense. And then the third piece, I said, what makes the most sense for where the world is going? So you have to look outside yourself. And for me, I thought, one, you can't fail if you have a business degree. Because even if you're not going to be a doctor, a very specific field, and it's a very admired field, as a business, with a business degree or a master's degree, you're going to find your way and you're going to navigate.
And these are skills that you'll always use, like business.
You're always going to use it. And then the last thing I would say is being comfortable somewhat, because I'm also type A, where I'm also somewhat comfortable with the unknown if I understand what the potential options are. And that's really how I reflected through that. I was 19 years old, 20 years old when I made this decision. But it's funny, at that young age, instinct really guides you. But that's really been the way that I've shaped my career over the past 20 plus years.
Through my gut.
Yeah.
I love that,
Absolutely.
actually.
Yeah.
And no, also, it's really important that you actually took the time to understand calculated risk. I think it's something where people make impulsive decisions and then they're lost. But if you really sit there and map it out of having your foundation
Yep.
strong, I think
Yep.
that's the most important.
Absolutely.
And then taking that next step to really plan it out what the pros and cons are.
Right. Without a doubt.
So you come out of Stanford.
Come out of Stanford. I come out of Stanford. So the first thing is I need to get my education done. So I have a Stanford degree. I got a undergraduate and master's degree. And then I went to Columbia for the business degree. So like I said, having a business degree from top Ivy League school, you literally can't go wrong in life if you have that in place. And then there comes serendipity, which I wasn't expecting. There comes the surprise. I literally got a call from one of my colleagues at Stanford. Again, you're 21, 22 years old, figuring things out. And they say, hey, there's this website at the time, website called thefacebook.com. What do you think about it? Would you be interested in applying? So here I am. I had not gone to medical school. I was finishing my degrees at Stanford and Columbia. And then I got a call saying, there's a startup.
Like at the infancy stage, literally stage. Yeah.
Literally, there's a startup in Silicon Valley. What do you think? Let's have a chat. Sure, why not? And that sure, why not conversation literally changed the direction of my life.
Did you have a conversation with your parents? Like, did they understand?
So to come back to what you were saying, when I told my mom, she had already absorbed the news that, medical school was not my destiny.
Yeah.
But when, I said to her that I was joining a startup in Silicon Valley for a social network, we're in 2026, okay?
Yeah.
And this just seems normal. This is 2006.
That's wild.
The only social network really at that time was MySpace.
Yeah.
And MySpace was a dating / show off blog
Yeah.
at best, And so she says, what do you mean you're going to work
Well,
here?
yeah, you're leaving New York City. You're like going
what do you mean?
Yeah.
And so I said, something's happening here, because I knew that we were, again, calculated risk. I knew that there were some factors that could or would contribute to the success of this adventure. Mm-hmm. We were in Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley, at that time, this was before the 2008 economic bust, but Silicon Valley was just booming with ideas.
Yeah.
There were things going on. There were tests. There were ideas
just
being
the
developed.
people
And
there,
just
like
people
just
there,
that energy. Yeah.
There's just an energy and intelligence. And I said, you know what? Worst comes to worst, I will, work here for a year or two, and then if I need to go to consulting or to go into, whatever it is that's more stable from a business point of view, I'm going to do it. And so that was it. I had a conversation, I think I had a conversation on a Monday, and I was driving home, and they called me and said, do you want to come work at Facebook? Thefacebook.com. It's evolved over time. And I said, sure, why not? And by the next week, Monday, I was at my new job.
That's amazing.
And when I say my new job, this is not glamorous, okay? This is one office in downtown Palo Alto, all open desks, just a computer, no frills, nothing like of the sort. And it was like, here's your computer, let's get to work. We have a platform to keep alive. And that's how it started.
And so what was your first job there?
My first job was to do everything. Okay. Yeah. And this is where you have to be, comfortable with the unknown, because at that time it was engineers, it was HR and operations. That was the company. And so my first job was to, keep the site up and allow people to be able to use their accounts. And so that's what I did. You come in, you see things that are wrong, you propose ideas and say, okay, I can build a tool to fix that, or I can build a system or a process to make that run or be more effective. And that's what I did. And that was really the first few years of working at the company. And then, things start getting structured as a startup. There's revenue to be built, there are teams, there are offices, regions to be opened. And that's how the company grew. But for me, I think I grew with the company. I spent almost 18 years there, and I grew with the company because I saw opportunities, meaning, I saw there's a revenue opportunity here. Then I saw there's this team that's hiring and has headcounts. And so if I come in, I could get promoted, potentially at a faster rate. And I saw those opportunities, and I took those calculated risks that put me in position to continue to grow and build my career.
What is the piece of advice? You've been there for just under 20 years, right? 18 years
Yeah.
there. You're moving up because your last role was, I mean, I can't wait to dive into that. But
Of course, let's talk about
when
it.
you start literally as a startup and
Yeah.
it's almost like you're moving, right? It's like chess and you're just moving. How are those conversations happening? Are you talking to your, direct superior? Are you talking to HR? Like, how do you recognize that you want to move up?
Yeah.
And be surrounded by other department, like taking advice or like learning from other departments or, trying to be around kind of the brilliant people in the room. So you're like a sponge. How are you making those moves?
Well, to be clear, I didn't have an example that resembled my experience, that either looked like me or had lived the kind of experience I had. So I said, I don't need to be quote unquote comfortable by having someone who has lived the same kind of life that I have, because I need to go in and make
Create
sure that
something.
and make sure that my merit is recognized on its own. So I had my eyes very wide open, meaning I saw who was being placed in the top positions, what subjects they were covering, what their responsibilities were, and what resources, whether it's money, whether it's a headcount, this is very pragmatic, that they had to grow and build their teams. And I said, okay, I need to align myself, or at least make sure they understand my value, so that if and when there's an opportunity to hire a new team lead, a new manager, that I'm first in line because I've done the work to showcase that this is what I can deliver that can support their objectives. So that's really what I did. And very pragmatically, at that time, there was organizational structure where you can go and see who reports to whom, what teams exist in what departments. So I just did the mapping and I said, okay, they're growing. They just fired people. And so I need to be on this side of where the action is happening and where the priority is for the company. And that's how I built my career. I stayed on the right side of prioritization and growth because there was always a space for me that I could build my career, obviously after proving my value, because there's hard work behind all of this, where I could build my career because I was on the right side of opportunity.
So from your first job of doing it all pretty much, what do you think was the next role where you really made impact?
There's the next two roles, and I'll tell you why. The first one was that the company needed to make money, like any company does. You raise funds and you launch. Great. Now you're launching, you're humming, now revenue comes. The second thing is you need to build loyalty, especially when you're at the new concept, not even just a new social platform. The concept of social platforms was completely new. You have to get people to say, this is worth my time to come back every week, every month to actually spend time here. So the first thing was understanding who was being hired to build and grow the business. Second thing was who was being hired and what was the opportunity for me to be on the side of consumer growth. So those were my two roles within the company. First, I was the product manager working with engineering and sales to build a go-to-market consumer business strategy, And then I also worked on the partnership side to support the go-to-market consumer strategy. So it was really straddling kind of left brain, right brain. But I was, again, on the side of where there was a need to grow the business and to grow consumer engagement in order for the company to survive. And so I placed myself right squarely in the middle of those two opportunities. And then I said, I've done this. It's fantastic. It's great. Now let's, get ready for an adventure. I was ready to go back to New York. And the company had just hired a female, important point, female CMO, and I admired her. I admired her tenacity. She'd worked at top media and advertising companies, and I said, I want to be next to her, on her right side, literally. And she was hiring for a chief of staff role, and I said, this is for me. This is what I want to do.
And this was in New York?
And this was in New York. So this was the time, after a few years, I left Silicon Valley to go to New York to take on the hardest job I have ever had in my life. When I say the hardest, you give yourself to a role like that. So anyone who's been a chief of staff or kind of understands being the right-hand person of a senior leader executive, it's tough. It's travel on a weekly basis. It's 10, 20, 15-page briefings. It's understanding a different level of executive strategy and thinking that had never had before at 26 years old. 26.
And I can imagine at this point,
Yeah.
Facebook is now thousands of employees. It's not startup now because now
Yeah.
you're in the big city.
Yeah.
You now have another office.
Yeah.
So you're in the thousands. Chief of staff role. Marketing is everything,
Everything.
for a company like this.
Yeah.
And so here you are
Yeah.
making your mark.
Yeah. Making my mark, but not realizing I was.
Yeah.
That's you always keep that because I said to myself, okay, this is a challenge. I cannot fail. But I don't think I understood the gravity of what I was doing or where that would lead me. Maybe it's a good thing that I didn't because then, I was able to just power on without feeling the weight of what that opportunity could look like. So I'm here. I'm traveling, from Switzerland to Sydney to Singapore. And this is not glamorous traveling, let's be clear. This is traveling, you're working on the plane to get the briefing documents ready, to get the business strategy, to finalize the presentation slides, you're working, you're landing, jet lag, to the office, get the content printed, making sure that the meeting with the CEO of XYZ Fortune 500 company is going to be excellent, and they're going to sign a tens and hundreds $1,000,000 deal with my employer and with, of course, support my CMO. So this was absolutely intense.
Yeah.
And I'm so proud that I took advantage of this opportunity. I didn't let it break me. So when you for those who are listening, when you are thinking about, is this worth it? I would say to have a North Star. And for me, the North Star was that when you do a kind of role like that, the opportunity and the next steps are open for you. So that was worth it for me.
I love that. Oh my God. Like, please, can we stop and just pause and take that all in? That is so true, the North Star.
Yeah.
You have to have a goal that you're like looking forward to. There always has to be this goalpost.
Yes.
The other thing that I just literally was this aha moment is this working hard. Doesn't matter if people are noticing or not, but if you're disciplined, dedicated, loyal,
Yeah.
people will be drawn to that and they'll recognize it. And sometimes they won't say it, but it will be rewarded to you at a certain point.
Yeah,
So
I
I
think
love that.
You have to do both. You have to work hard and work smartly. So, like I said, I had my eyes open because I placed myself at the center of opportunity. So, for sure, for me, it's there's no question that rigor, excellence, efficiency, your deliverables have to be
Yeah.
on point with a ribbon on it, so that there's no question as to the merit or the quality of your work or your level of intelligence or competence as a leader. For me, that's baseline. If you don't have that, there's not even a conversation to be had.
Right.
And then you say, okay, once the excellence in terms of deliverables is in place, now how can I focus on the qualitative / human / mental strategic side of things, which is going to place me in the right moments, at the right tables, in the right conversations, so that when that opportunity comes, you're the one that's top of mind. That's also a soft skill that's incredibly important, especially as a woman, to understand, so that you really are batting with both hands and you can make sure that you can deliver and you can have the best of opportunities that come your way.
And you have choice. I feel like when
Yeah.
you're agile and you have those options, you
Yeah.
can make the right choice for your career and life going forward.
Absolutely. And for me, that's really something that I wanted to build for myself. I knew that there were years where I was making sacrifices. I sacrificed, my personal life. You sacrifice relationships. Let's be real. You sacrifice fertility in a number of cases. You push, and I think it's a very personal decision, so it's something to really discuss with oneself, but you push or you decide where you're going to prioritize. And for me, I knew that I wanted the first part of my career to be focused on becoming a leader and growing into a leader. Did I make all the right decisions? Maybe not. Did the decisions get me to where I am today?
Yeah.
They absolutely did.
Yes, they absolutely did.
And here we are.
So from New York,
Yeah.
how do we get to Paris, the
So-
glamorous city?
New York is fantastic, and I love New York.
Yeah.
And every time I go back, I really love New York. And I knew that I needed to open up a door, and this was something that was part of my personality. I was a builder. I was someone who didn't just come and make sure that the machine was turning, in a wheel. I like to build. I like to construct. I like to formalize. I like to, put things in place. And a passion that I had always had was this world of luxury. This world of luxury, this world of branding, and it's not in the sense of I like to shop. No, I was very fascinated by different levels. The level of craftsmanship and artisans, the level of building an industry where scarcity and desire are the core, and creativity are the core of this industry, where you can have people desire something that they absolutely do not need. And I found that absolutely...
That's a skill set.
Yeah.
That is a
It's
skill
a very
set.
good skill set. And this notion of, quality, supremely qualitative products as well. So I always had this passion for luxury. But let's be clear, I was working at a tech company. A tech company where,
You have millions and millions of subscribers.
Millions of
Yeah.
people, using the platform is very much about mass. It's very much about reach. It's not about exclusivity. It's not about, individual product value. And so I had to think to myself, how can I build something that makes sense for where I am today, that also builds for tomorrow and unites and brings value.
Like that intersect.
That intersect completely. So I said, you know what? Crazy idea. We're going to pitch, or I'm going to pitch, because I was the one that pitched, the creation of a new business unit, luxury division within the company, within, at the time, Facebook. Crazy idea, because
they'd never seen that before,
I'd
heard of
never
it
seen
before.
that exactly. And, but what I had in my favor, in my corner, was that I had the support of the person making the decisions. I had worked for her for several years, so she knew who I was. She knew what I brought to the table, rather. And so I think that when you're working at a job, as a chief of staff, for example, having the support or having the view or the action hand of the person making the decision, there's no better place to be.
Of course.
So that was really why I did it. That was my vision, my North Star, to be able to choose, speaking of choice, what came next. So it took time. So there was patience that was necessary there, about a year and a half. I created the plan, got feedback, sometimes hard feedback. So I had to, be humble and swallow that feedback, but also use it to improve and continue pitching and remaining on the idea until I found myself 2015 on a plane to Paris to create not just a new life, but a new business and a new future.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
So now you're creating this, you're in Europe, you have a new department.
Yes.
How do you build a team from there?
How do you build a team? Well, you rely on people. So I relied on my colleagues. And I think that was very important because they knew I was coming in to add value and also to help them as well. And so I have not done any of this alone. I rely on their intelligence. I had never run a business sales team with a P&L. I had never done that. So I had to understand what kind of profiles you hire. How do you build a business? How do you pitch clients? How do you build presentations? Those are all things I had never done before. So I relied on the support of my colleagues to really help me realize this and bring this to life. And then I was also, in a good way, naive, because I said, you know what? I have a big idea, I have a big pitch, I have a big plan. Let's go. I had no idea what was waiting for me. I had no idea what it meant to shift so deeply culturally. And when I say that is, I've had an international life, so we can move to different countries, we've even learned new languages, and we've figured it out. But this was the biggest, most fundamental cultural shift I had ever had, and even to this day, I came in, Anglophone, American, Nigerian, not speaking one word of French.
Yeah.
Came from the Silicon Valley in California and from New York to build a team of French people. Didn't speak French, and had to convince the most exclusive in 2015, again, 11 years ago, the most exclusive luxury brands that they should be on this mass digital platform teaming with people. And it was not easy.
I mean, did they understand? Because the whole point of luxury back then was keeping it tight
Yeah.
and small and exclusive.
Yeah.
And
Well, this is where you make mistakes. And I think it's important to make mistakes, but to learn from them. My approach in the beginning, I cannot say it was the right approach, was the tailored approach, because I had to learn what it meant to actually speak to a senior executive leader at a global luxury maison. You have this expertise, you have it down pat. At that time, I didn't. And so even just how you show up, little things like what presentations you use, how you speak, especially when you're speaking in this context, you're not just coming in like, the New Yorker, okay, let's do the deal, shake the hand, and let's get it
it's a
signed.
softer approach,
It's
a little
softer
warm up.
approach.
Yeah.
It's personal. You have to relate to them. You have to convince. It takes time. Actually, decisions are made more so at lunches, business lunches, than in a boardroom when you check off, the key actions on a slide. And those were things that I had to, and it took me a number of years to understand what it meant to move differently, to convince, to build that relationship, to build that trust, while all the while having pressure of Silicon Valley on my back.
Yeah, of
saying,
course.
we sent you there. You have a business to build. We need numbers. We need revenue. We need business.
The pressure. It's a lot of pressure, of course. Yeah.
It was a lot of pressure. So those 3-ish years were the most tough personally and definitely professionally for me as well. And so I think that naivety helped me because I didn't know what was ahead of me. If I had known, I don't know what decisions I would have made. But I have to say that I learned the most from those years because I learned how to be both a practical and pragmatic leader, but then I also learned how to be a negotiator. Those, again, soft skills, those convincing skills were really the balance of what came out of those years of disappointment or sometimes, tough meetings
And
with in lessons. Yeah, exactly.
So, from that story, because I met you in this role,
Yes.
right? And what really resonates was I feel like there's this pivotal point where you come into this entrepreneurial spirit. That even though you had the team from, like, you had a corporate structure foundation underneath,
Yeah.
this was your idea, your concept,
Yeah.
the learning new skills, the pressure. I mean, this is really, I guess, preparing you to be this entrepreneur, which is kind of where we go.
And I didn't know that at the
Yeah.
time, but absolutely.
So when you hear
Yeah.
this story, it's amazing because you have this incredible education, incredible career, mentors, all of this along the way, and you're learning, and then you end up in Paris, and it's really this. I feel like this is the next part of your career where it was really setting you up.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that this, like you said, these were the years. So these were, 10 plus years where I became a leader, where my confidence was first broken down, but then very much built back up because guess what? I had the foundations in place, if we come back to that point, in that I knew what it meant to work hard and deliver. And I delivered.
Yeah.
I delivered a business. I delivered double-digit growth literally every quarter for
Amazing.
a number of years. And I was able to do that because I didn't get intimidated by the challenge in front of me saying, I've had so many meetings with so many no's, and I'm going back to New York and packing my bags, and that's it. No, I said, all right, I'm here.
Gonna make it work.
I'm going to make it work.
Make it happen.
Make it
Yes.
happen. So the first approach didn't work. Maybe the second didn't work as well. So let me sit down with some people because, I had pretty good relationships. Thankfully. Let me sit down and get their advice because no man or no woman is an island. So let me sit down and get their advice as to how to shift the approach, shift the way of working, shift how I build my team, how I support them as well to be able to get to a place of success. And so I had to, eat some humble pie and listen, not just listen and it kind of stays, here, but listen and internalize and use that guidance to shift my behavior to really understand what it meant to, one, build a business. Because again, if you don't have results, the rest is not going to happen.
Yeah.
So my focus was on building the business first. And once I was able to do that, then I built the different elements of what it meant to be a leader, supporting my team and not being micromanaging so that they could then
Grow.
grow.
Yeah.
They could then grow. what it meant to build my perspective and my profile within the company, but also externally as well, so that I could be recognized as an expert and as a leader in this industry, as someone coming completely outside and completely from left field. And it took years to do that. So the third piece that I learned was really patience and not trying to run up every hill and exhausting myself while doing though, but understanding that it was a matter of consistency and consistency over time.
So you're in this role for a good
Yeah.
8 years.
10 years.
10 years.
10 years. Yeah.
10 years.
Yeah.
When did that itch started coming where you're like, I can do this myself, or
Yeah.
I want to try something new? What was that moment?
Yeah.
Because coming from a corporate side,
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest, you have support, you have everything, a matter of just like pressing a send key or a phone call,
Yeah.
the security of salaries and
Yeah.
everything that comes with it. Taking that entrepreneurial leap is really hard. I mean, you can have that conversation over and over again, but when you like really do that jump, there has to be something in you that's like this fire burning.
Yeah.
Because already when I hear the story of you going to Paris, you've already recognized the white space.
Yeah.
You know that there's something missing, there's something you can do, and you start kind of building your entrepreneurial skill set, but you still have that security of Facebook team.
Of course.
When was that moment where you're like, I think I can do something, like I want to start a company?
Yeah. You know, the shift, it came in ebbs and flows, but I think the beginning of that shift was really, and for a lot of people who had an impact, was after COVID. After COVID, our lives were completely changed, and what we didn't know was possible actually became possible. For me, the shift was also very personal in the sense that it wasn't about, okay, I want to go from corporate to entrepreneurship, but it was that I wanted to build and grow my personal life that I had intentionally put to the side. Maybe I wasn't right for doing so, but I had put to the side for many years. I knew that I wanted to build a family. I knew that I wanted to really focus on this part that was so rooted in my infancy, in my culture, in my family. I couldn't imagine myself not prioritizing that. And I had come to a place where, thankfully, the fruits of my labor had been or were beginning to pay off in terms of where I was positioned in my career and how I had risen in my career to an executive level. I said to myself, I have to decide if continuing to go at this pace in this direction and having this structure of life is actually going to help me live the life that I want to live. And that's not to question anyone's decision at all. This was a very deeply personal for me. I knew that when I wanted a family in a specific way. And I knew that too, I needed to build and brand my own voice. I had been the voice of a fantastic and life-changing platform for almost 20 years. And I had done it incredibly well.
Yeah.
But I needed to bring that back inward and focus on what I had to give, my point of view. Even just having a point of view it can be a challenging thing when you're in a corporate world, because the corporate world, there are rules to follow in a corporate world. And that's perfectly fine as long as you recognize those and you align with them and you use that to advance. But I wanted something else. And it was very much okay to want something else, both personally and professionally. So those two desires came together, came to a head, in the years following COVID. And I said, I need to find the best way to do so. Because one, like you said, corporate life is also rewarding in a lot of different ways for that security, whether it's financial security, where you have the title associated with your name, and people open doors for you thanks to your association with that company. Yeah. So I spent 2 years deciding, figuring out, planning. So I didn't wake up one day and say, okay, I'm done with corporate world. Here's my resignation letter and let's leave. I spent 2 years exploring options, having conversations.
Did you go back to that 19-year-old self and do that calculated risk strategy?
That's exactly what it was. And again, it's not something that I planned or that I knew was my MO, but it became... This goes back to how we are who we are over time. And I took that calculated risk. First, I needed to get on paper, clear as day, black and white financial plan for me. My financial plan for me, my life, my financial plan for the business, to showcase, all right, I want to maintain a certain quality of life because I've spent years, decades building a certain quality of life. Do I maintain? Do I cut? If I cut, what do I need? Like literally spreadsheets. So there's no, and numbers don't lie.
Yeah.
Numbers
Exactly.
don't lie. This is what you need in order to be able to pay your current obligations, even just to kind of be
Yeah, living expenses. Yeah, of
living
course.
expenses. This is what you need. And so you need to plan as such. So first, I spent time doing that financial planning. Secondly, it's great when you have a runway ahead of you, then you have to turn that runway into something. You know, what does it mean to build a business? What kind of life do I want that allows me the flexibility that I want, that allows me to apply my expertise to support brands and businesses? And how do I design that? I had some great examples. I've spoken about the CMO, Carolyn Everson at Meta, who was and still is my mentor to this day, and also been able to had the fortune to be surrounded by women who've, built different ideas and initiatives on their own. So that gave me confidence that I could build on my own
Yeah.
and leave the security of corporate life.
That must have been a very hard conversation to have.
Many conversations, and I was fortunate to also have my partner. And so when you have someone in your life, your partner you're building a life together, decisions that you make are
Affecting
impacting
both.
them,
Yeah, of course.
as well, and vice versa. And so I had someone I have had and do have, my partner in life who challenges me, poses questions, gives ideas. And you figure it out because you have to have your individual sorted out first. But having that support system is indispensable. I'm so lucky that that space opened up to be able to welcome someone into my life and to be able to say, okay, we're going to build this life together.
I know you traveled to this region quite often in your role. What really made you make another jump to pack up your bags and come to Dubai? What was that moment?
Yeah. So I had a document saying, what do I want in life?
Yeah.
Both professionally and also personally. And there's some key words that I put on that document. I still have it to today. I wanted quality of life. I wanted comfort. I wanted safety and security. And I wanted growth. They're big words. They can mean a lot of things for different people. I knew what they meant for me. And we discussed a lot because when you have someone who also comes from different cultures, he's French and West African. We both have West African common roots. We kind of looked at a map of the world and then looked at, what we wanted to do because he's an entrepreneur as well, and where we wanted to build our business and figure out what was the right place for us that would afford us and welcome us as multicultural people, welcome us as entrepreneurs.
Quality of life.
Provide that quality of life.
Yeah.
And it was just, we kind of listed out the options and you kind of narrow things down. We say yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. And this made sense. It made sense, and it wasn't new in the sense that I didn't just wake up and say, okay, the Middle East and Dubai, this, there's something happening here. No, I had cultivated relationships over time. We've known each other for several years. And so I knew that because social capital is so important, I knew that I had people. I knew that I had connections, whether it's, folks that you met just a few times or those with whom you have long-standing relationships. But I knew that I had those. And so it wasn't a kind of a dark road where you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
You have nothing there and you have to go and be lonely, et cetera. Because I've been lonely and I've done that experience and I wasn't trying to repeat
It's
it.
different now. I mean, just the fact that you have a life, a partner with you, this decision is not just you. It's two people, and it's the next stages of life of building a family and where are you going to invest your roots in for this next chapter.
Absolutely. And that's what it is for us. It's an investment of our life, of our energy, of our time. It's building roots as well. And we have the fortune of being multinational, multi-continental, if you will, which can be uncomfortable sometimes, I have to say, when you don't always feel like you're connected to the place that is the center of who you are. But at the same time, it opens up so much more in terms of building a tolerance-based point of view,
Yeah.
in respecting other people's culture and heritage, and also in a lot of ways embodying those cultures, or at least adding them onto the foundations of what you have in place.
And how is Dubai for you? I love Dubai. So I was asked because as a female entrepreneur, I think it's been such a great place where I've had a chance to build businesses. And so I'm very interested to hear like how that experience has been for you.
I've been visiting Dubai for at least a decade now.
Yeah.
And visiting here has always been wonderful, and always appreciated, and also very much contributed to the decision to really build a stronger foundation here. What the experience has been, it's been actually mostly wonderful. You know, where there's always little things when you're moving, you know, to a new place,
Yeah,
you just
of course.
adjust things to operationally, et cetera.
Yeah.
You figure it out and move forward. But I feel calm. I feel serene. I feel at peace. I feel engaged too. And I'm especially engaged by the quality, by the level of caliber, and by the warm, rich welcome of women in Dubai. I cannot emphasize that enough, because it's just been absolutely breathtaking in the best of ways.
I love that.
Yeah.
So I think the thing both of us have in common is this motherhood at 40. I'm kind of joining your club very soon.
Welcome.
How has that been? Like, year and a half.
She's 14 months.
14 months,
She
yeah.
is a ball of energy. She's
Yeah.
an absolute ball of energy. She's wonderful.
So this is a new title for you, Mom.
This is
From
a
having
new
all these other
title.
impressive titles, this is the most important
Yes,
one.
this is the most important one.
Yeah.
I'm very grateful that she's here now. Obviously, if she had come at another period in my life, you know,
You'd make it work.
You make
Yeah.
it work.
Yeah.
You make it work. But I'm very grateful that we were intentional, and that she's here now, and that she really just fit right into our life plan. She
Yeah.
really absolutely does. And what we do for us, we do for her, and we really bring it together. And so I've actually been a stepmom for a number of years, and now, you know, I've actually had the experience of carrying and bringing my daughter to the world, and it's life-changing. It's life-changing, the level of vulnerability that this person has, because they depend entirely on you.
Yeah.
And then there are the exciting milestones where you see the light just keeps getting brighter and brighter and brighter in their eyes, what they see, what they recognize, how they grow. And then you're worried. You're worried about the cold. You're worried about, you know, oh, there's a little itch here. You're worried about everything. You're worried about, you know, school. You're worried about what's going to happen. That's what comes with it. You're worried, but you're worried because you want this person to have the best in life. And what I appreciate is that my career has taken me to a place where I have the flexibility of time, how I live, how I spend my time, where I'm not running in place every day at every moment. I'm a busy person, for sure.
Yeah.
We're busy women.
Yeah.
But I'm not running, trying to catch up to something which is not my own.
Yeah.
There's a very different energy of where I was versus where I
you
am
are
today. I will have to say, where I was taught me a lot. So I'm not discrediting life experiences. I'm not discrediting working in the corporate world. I'm not discrediting, you know, navigating through that.
Everything we do brings us to where we are today.
Yeah.
Every step you make, right?
Yeah.
It's like whether you turn left or right, it changes your life.
Yeah,
You're raising this beautiful daughter, a burst of energy.
very much so.
And hear the conversation all the time of every parenting book I read or every algorithm
Yeah.
is like, how do you juggle screen time, social media? I mean, you were like, you are the queen of social media. So it's like, well, how do you, like, what is, like, yeah, how do you juggle that? Or how are
Yeah.
you planning on introducing it or controlling it? Or
Yeah.
do you believe she shouldn't have screens? I mean, there's so many conversations around that. What is your view on that of raising
There are a lot
her?
of conversations about it, and I think that different perspectives are very valid. What I choose for my life, and it's very interesting for a lot of my colleagues with whom I worked, especially with whom I worked in the early years, a lot of them actually have little to no screen time for their children because
Yeah.
they've kind of been in it for so long and they want to, in some ways, preserve some elements of, human to human
Yeah.
natural interaction. And that's really what we prioritize. Am I going to sit here and say she's never going to have a screen?
No.
No, because the world functions
It's
that
on
way.
screen.
Even
digital.
it's the world
World
is
is digital,
digital.
yeah.
So I think that would be illogical to say that the world is digital, but you're going to stay analog for the next 15 years. No. I think that there is guidance to give as to, time spent, as to what the value of that time is. If it's just kind of mind numbing, rather, excuse me, mind numbing time. No, I don't want that.
Yeah.
I don't want mind numbing time, especially in these formative years.
Yeah.
I was going to be a doctor, so I studied a lot about
Yeah.
biology and chemistry in the formative years.
Are the most important.
Are the most important. Are the most important. And we know so much more now than our parents did at
Yeah.
that time. They did the best of what they had, but we know so much more now. So we're going to aim to give them the best of what we can across nutrition, across, life experiences, across the board. And you do so intelligently and do so what feels right for you and your family.
I think people are going to love that question because you are the queen of social media. Yeah, it is. It is about balancing and when to introduce it slowly and put a time on it. You are very busy. You sit on several boards.
Yes.
You have your own company, advisory company. How do you juggle that? Because you're like on these international boards where their head offices are, I think, predominantly in Europe, right? How do you map out your time?
Yeah. That's the beauty of it, because that's exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to be able to map out my time after, years where my time was, I kind of dictate how I spent my time was dictated based on the needs of the business, which doesn't mean that I don't spend my time based on the needs of my business. Like you said, I have a consultancy and a brand marketing advisory company, Le Vitrouve, which is based here in Dubai. So myself and my partner, we're co-founders of the company. So it's luxury, digital, and sustainability are really the core of
Pillars of the company.
Which means that we have the flexibility of being where we need to be to deliver the services that we deliver to our clients. So as you mentioned, I'm on the board of directors of Breitling, Biologique Recherche Rituals.
I love that skincare.
Which
Fantastic.
which have amazing pregnancy skin. So bravo.
Yeah.
And I work as an advisor to Kempinski Hotels and a number of different brands. One, you have to be very structured and organized, because the good thing about working as an advisor or board director is that you have flexibility. On the other hand, you need to deliver to your responsibilities. I have very clear board meetings. I have committee meetings within the company. My time to work ratio is great, but at the same time, I need to be present where I need to deliver the job that I've been hired to do in working with these brands. So organization is primordial.
Yeah.
How I organize my travel, how I organize my days, and how I'm able to also take advantage to spend time with family and valuable time with the family. So organization. So I have a shared Excel, spreadsheet, my partner's spreadsheet, and we look to say, where are we on what days?
Do you kind of just merge them?
Because we need to merge them.
Yeah.
And we need to choose. And this is the beauty of having a relationship as well. Sometimes you are pushing, sometimes you're pulling, and you need to give and take with that person.
Yeah.
Whether it's physically who's traveling more for a certain amount of time, or who's, who needs more support in other ways a certain amount of time. So I manage my business by being very structured and organized.
Yeah.
I manage my business also by relying on support. I'm not one of those people who needs to do everything and do it all. I know how to hire people who are the best at what they do, so I don't have to spend time doing what I'm not the best at.
I think delegation is a skill set in itself. To
Without a
recognize
doubt.
talent,
Yeah.
to delegate, to motivate. I mean, these are skill sets on its own.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I really have made sure to do that so that I can focus on where I'm the best, the expertise that I have, and I'm not spending time, which is fine for an entrepreneur. Sometimes you kind of put your hands into the weeds
Yeah,
and,
of
get
course.
things done. And after a while, you say, okay, you know what? I did that to get the structure in place. Now it's time to grow and evolve, and you get the right people in place. And I really have done that. And I'm very proud to have had that foresight to be able to hire great teams. And then the last piece is that also gives me the flexibility of how I build and spend time with my daughter. Again, growing up in an African family, I'm not immune to help in the sense that you can't do everything
Yeah.
from morning to night with your two hands and your 2 feet. We've had family with us for the most part of her life, and now I also have a very strong support system at home as well to give her the time she needs, the energy she needs, so that when I'm with her, it is incredibly valuable and high quality time.
And being present.
And being present.
Yeah.
And on top of that, you have to sleep.
Yes, exactly.
On top
Well,
of
you
that,
have to
you
be
have to
like
sleep.
there's so, and I think that's what people don't talk about. It's like for a woman, you have to be so many variations
Yeah.
of everything.
Yeah.
Like boss. I mean, for me, I'm like running the house, running the
Yeah.
company, running the brand. I love storytelling, so this is really my passion. And just being a daughter and like daughter. I mean, the list is like never ending.
Yeah.
And
of
so like
course.
it's about being present for whatever amount of time that is
Yeah.
and giving it what you can.
Yeah. And learning to say no. Because as you know, we are both women who are present in the public
Yeah.
to certain levels.
Yeah.
And we get a lot of inputs, requests of our time, of our energy. And I think it's important to focus where we want our energy to be honest about where we cannot spend time, because we are simply one human being. Maybe help or support if there's a way. If not, there isn't
Yeah.
a way.
And it's okay to say
And
no.
it's okay to say no, and to be comfortable in saying no, to be clear about saying no, and to not live with this guilt because XYZ wanted this, and that from us. Am I the best friend to the best people all the time? No. But for those moments, whether it's we check in once every 3 months, and I give you that,
Yeah.
1 hour conversation.
And I actually think your friends
it's fine.
understand.
And I think that
Yeah.
as friends,
Yeah.
and especially, as we surround ourselves with women who are striving to be something, continue to grow and build their lives, I think they understand as well. Again, it's about that quality time when we are together. It's the best time.
Yeah.
It's not going to be every day or even every
Yeah.
other week or something like that, but it's the best time, and it makes sense and it adds value to us as well.
So before we end, I'm going to just ask you some quick questions.
Sure.
What are top 3 apps that you recommend or that are kind of on your phone to make your life easier or that are enjoyable? Or
Okay, so
what
we
would you
just
recommend we
talked about-
download?
We just talked about sleep. So there are 2 apps that kind of rotate between
Yeah.
2 sleep apps. I'm going to cheat a little bit, so I'm going to give you 4. I have the Aura Ring to monitor my activity, physical activity, and movements, because I think it's really important to be mindful and aware of that, so that you can really take action. And then the other for sleep, I utilize the Rituals, the Mind Oasis app.
Okay, that's a good one.
So it's a relatively new app, and it provides guided sleep sessions where you can either focus on sleep and relaxation, or actually kind of helps you energize yourself as well. So I use that really religiously. Listen, we're in a tech and digital world. All right. So when you say tech and digital, you're either on ChatGPT or Claude. Take your pick, and figure
Which
out.
one do you recommend?
Well, I mean, should I say?
Yeah, because I feel like now Claude, I don't know.
Yes.
Claude is
so-
kind of the big topic of.
I think competition is healthy, no matter
Yeah,
what.
I think
And
so
I've
too.
been in a space, in tech where there's always competition.
Yeah.
And different solutions deliver different things. Initially, and especially kind of being first to market, ChatGPT has really kind of filled that space.
Yeah.
And based on what you need, when you go from functional to kind of deep thought, ideas, more profound subjects, I think Claude really responds to that as well. And so it's just based on personal preference.
Okay, that's a good one.
And then, sorry, the last one we talked about organization and planning.
Yeah.
For me, I really love to use really any kind of planning app, reminders, checklists, etc., because it just keeps me on track and keeps me on the move.
Love that.
Yes.
I got so many nuggets of information from you today, and it was so nice to really hear your career journey. I mean, not only is it just so impressive, but it's so real.
Okay.
Last question. What is one tip you give to kind of this younger generation about really building their career?
I would say to be very intentional, excuse me. Be intentional about what you want and make sure every step you take in life or in career goes and drives towards that North Star. Even if you don't know how to get to the North Star, you set a North Star and it's a step by step by step by step. You want to spend your time living in an international country, building XYZ career? Well, of course, the next job you take should be a step forward to get you there. So be intentional, build your North Star, and be intentional about the steps that you take to get towards your North Star, and you'll find your way there even maybe before you realize it.
Always keep going forward.
Yes,
Always.
absolutely.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Rosemin.
I am so happy we finally connected in the studio.
This was fantastic.
But thank you. Honestly, it was such an inspiring session, and I learned so much, and I can only imagine what we learned here today for our viewers. So thank you for being with us.
Thank you for allowing me to share. Appreciate it. And congrats again.
Thank you.